Somebody who believes that America should come first.
Not women for the draft.
You have the free
feminists.
speech to say that, but you're going to get punched in your face.
You can't pick and choose the things that you want equality.
You know what we need is reparations for all those doors we've
That
opened.
doesn't make white people are scared to be white.
You don't point that out.
You see, you won't even say it. It's funny because it's true.
Welcome to Millennially Challenge for Sunday, January 8th, 2017. I'm David.
And I'm Greg.
Welcome to our episode. The first thing that we wanted to talk about today was what Drudge Report called the Hateful Four. Okay, so what they are is four black people. You know, there's three 18-year-olds and one 24-year-old, two females, two males, that basically tortured a handicapped person for like 48 hours or something like that. And then they like streamed it to Facebook or something like that.
They kidnapped them for 48 hours, and I think they published 30 minutes of torture on Facebook. Yeah. I don't know how long they tortured them, but
at one point, I heard somebody saying that the torture lasted for like 6 hours or something like that. But he was like in their custody for 48 hours or something like that. Essentially, this was a mentally handicapped white kid from Chicago, and he he was like really good. He really looked up to one of these kids. This kid, I think his name was Jordan, like Jordan Hill, I think was his name. And he like really looked up to this black kid. He was friends with him in high school. He was going over. His parents dropped him off at a McDonald's. Mm-hmm. In order for that kid to go and spend the night over, to like have a sleepover at his house. Like that was how it all started. And then it turned into these evil people like torturing and saying F white people, F black people, or you need to say I love black people. Say F white people. All this this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And then you have like CNN saying things like, "Oh, that's not an evil act. It may be brutal, but I don't think that's evil."
Okay, I think that's a mischaracterization. So, I think Don Lemon said...
Yeah, from CNN.
On CNN, what did he say, David? He said, it's not evil, it's not... I can't remember the exact context. He said something like, it's not evil, right? And he's been quoted as saying, it's not evil.
Yeah, but it's taken out of context a little bit.
In my opinion, when I watched the whole thing, to me, Don Lemon is the most outraged on his panel about this. And to me, when he was saying that it's not hate, in my opinion, he was saying it's more than hate. It's beyond hate. In my opinion, he was saying it's inhumane what happened.
But then what is Don Lemon's definition of evil? Like, what makes something evil then?
I don't think he's saying it's not evil in the same way that you're not saying, like, I don't know. He's saying it's not evil, but he's saying it's evil and beyond is what he's trying to say. It's evil.
He's saying it's worse.
Inhumane, in my opinion. What do you think? I mean, when you watch the thing...
Well, I'm watching clips of it. I'm not watching it in the context of the entire conversation. So I have not actually seen. I've only seen the reports of it. I haven't seen the actual entire video. So that does take things. I did see Steven Crowder's thing on it.
So I personally believe that he misrepresented Don Lemon there.
Okay.
Don Lemon was the most outraged person on the panel. He said that he had no friends, no people he ever knew. He couldn't even imagine a human being considering that would be an okay thing to do.
Yeah.
So when he says it wasn't hate, and then he goes on to say how much worse than hate it was, I think that's a huge misrepresentation by conservatives that have said,
yeah.
Lemon said it's not hate, but he said it is.
So essentially, the conservatives that are like the media outlets are out there doing exactly what they're accusing the mainstream media of doing. They're saying, Don Lemon said this. And then they get upset. Yeah. Well, they do less, but then they get upset about them taking a 3-second clip of Donald Trump saying something crazy, when the context makes it not crazy, but they can't do the same thing if they want to be respected more than the mainstream media that they're trying to say, it is misrepresenting things. They can't then turn around and misrepresent.
Okay, to be fair, if you go and watch the interview yourself, we'll post a link, the panel, but you could very well take it as him saying this wasn't hate. Because, it was a very weird thing to say, even when I heard it. The reason that I didn't believe that was his intent on what he was saying is because of the rest of the interview. But someone else who also listened to the whole interview might come to a different conclusion. I just personally didn't see it as this guy is not outraged. He seemed like he was the most outraged. He even mentioned that he couldn't imagine any person in the entire planet considering this to be okay. So to me, that means that in his head, it must be incredibly hateful, incredibly wrong, incredibly evil, so evil that he couldn't even imagine anyone else doing such a thing. That he's ever met.
So he's not saying it's not evil. He's saying it's more than evil.
I think so. But it's weird that he said it's not evil. You shouldn't say it's not evil, especially because you're on CNN and people are going to take sound bites.
Yeah.
And if I had just picked up the interview at that moment, I probably would have said, why is he saying it's not evil? And to me, what I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that you should have to give him the benefit of the doubt automatically. So Steven Crowder doesn't give him the benefit of the doubt, but I do.
Yeah.
That's his opinion. That's not misrepresenting him necessarily. That's just a differing opinion about what he meant. And
he's just interpreting what he said in a different way than you're interpreting it.
Yeah.
I can see that. I don't think that Don Lemon is like an idiot. I think that there are a lot of things that Don Lemon says that are just ridiculous, but I think he seems pretty rational most of the time. He's CNN.
Okay, but to be fair, I believe it was in the same interview or a very one around that, because I watched a bunch of the videos. And when they say things like, "I don't know what could have led someone to do something like this," hello.
They're saying F white people. They're saying you need to say that I love black people to this little, mentally handicapped kid.
They're saying exactly what they hear on CNN. So don't tell me that you don't know where they heard this message.
You're right about that. That is where they heard it. You know where they heard it? Black Lives Matter.
Where'd you get the idea that white lives didn't matter? From Black Lives Matter, which pretty much says white lives do not matter. There's people that are now starting to say, they're coming out and saying, yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. It's not official BLM stuff, but of course it's people that, obviously affiliate with BLM, that white lives don't matter. And white people,
in this article,
and they're like, yes, your life does not matter. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not afraid to say it.
Yeah, that's outrageous. That's outrageous. I would never say that a black life doesn't matter. I think the black lives do matter, but I don't think that they matter any more than anybody else's life.
No.
Why does any one person take precedence over some other person? If you're a person, you have as much, rights and whatever as anybody else.
Yeah.
Their argument is that we're just bringing attention to that Black Lives Matter. It's not. We're not saying that other lives don't matter. We're just saying that Black Lives Matter, and we need to bring attention to that Black Lives Matter. I don't think that anybody believes that Black lives don't matter.
Yeah, the super fringe. In my opinion, if you go and ask, if you polled black people and ask them, do white lives matter, or should white people be punished for, the sins of a long time ago? They're not even most of their ancestors, because only 1% of Americans had slaves. So there's a very likely chance that your ancestors didn't have slaves, but I guess you're getting your white privilege card from the government, and you're benefiting so much from the work that slaves did a long time ago, even though, that's up for debate. I obviously don't agree with that, but
yeah. I was watching the Golden Globes with my wife earlier, and every single Well, they interviewed a lot of people, okay? And it seemed like every single black person that they interviewed mentioned race.
Well,
at least once.
That's why I'm saying to get back to my point, thanks for helping me along with that, is I think that if you polled black people, a good percentage of them would say that white lives either don't matter. I'm not saying a high percentage, I'm just saying a good.
Well, yeah, they would argue that you're just speculating and you're just a racist.
Complete speculation, but I believe that because I think that 10 years ago, CNN wasn't saying what they're saying now, and I think that most black people would have said, yeah, like race doesn't matter. But now you have a bunch of millennials that are millennially challenged. They roll credits.
Roll credits.
They're millennially challenged, and they're millennially challenged because of CNN and the mainstream media saying that helping the narrative along that white people have oppressed you and you're the victim of white people. And now, if you poll those people, you're going to get a different result. And I think, personally, if you polled white people, you would find that the KKK is 0.000000001% of the population.
Yeah, but as compared to white people, but the percentage of Black Lives Matter supporters is much, much, much higher in the black community as compared to its population than the KKK is to white people.
Yeah, like probably like at least 50% of black people would associate.
I would agree with that.
With BLM, and 0.000, pick a number of zeros, 1% of people associate with the KKK. And they always talk about, the lynchings and stuff. It's like, when's the last lynching?
Yeah.
Can you tell me the last time someone got lynched in the streets? Because I can tell you the last time that someone, for being white, got dragged and stripped naked and beaten, and all sorts of bad things are happening.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, not 50 years ago or 30 years ago, whatever the last lynching. I have no idea.
Obama just said in an article I saw on Drudge, he just said that he believes that race relations are better than they have ever been since the civil rights movement.
No.
I could not believe that he said those words.
He's saying that they're better than they were at the time of the civil rights movement. People say, hey, Obama, race relations have gotten worse under your presidency. And he says, yeah, but look at from the civil rights from 1964 until today, isn't it much better? It's like, yeah, you're taking credit for something that you had no part of.
You were 5 years old at that time, buddy.
Race relations went like this, and then your presidency happened, and yes,
and it was like,
where we're at now is better than, like, 1964 is way down here, and it went up to here. It was really good, and then down to here during your presidency, and you're going to say, well, I'm going to compare this point to this one down here. No, I'm comparing you from this point, which is where we were, to this point.
No, when it works to his benefit, he wants to say, look at where things were at the beginning of my presidency, and now look at where they are at the end of my presidency. But with race relations, he wants to look at 1964 compared to that.
Look at when he was born versus today. That's what he wants to compare.
Yeah.
So, Davey, I wanted to just give you a hypothetical. If 4 white people kidnapped a black handicapped person, mentally handicapped, how would that conversation on CNN have been different?
It would have been, this is a hate crime. These people need to be put in prison. There needs to be a speedy trial. We need to put these people to death.
Let's round up 5% of white people and get them killed.
Yeah. Like, let's start killing white people.
Yeah, this is outrageous. No, and to have the most ridiculous defense, like suppose that you were that white girl that was on the Republican white girl trying to defend the 4 white people. She would have said, to use the same logic, she would have said ridiculous things like, well, I mean, I know that they were saying F black people and I hate N-words, but we still don't know the facts. I mean, we don't know if this is a hate crime. They probably kidnapped him because he was handicapped. I mean, that's most likely.
Which, by the way, qualifies as a hate crime.
No,
it's a hate crime if you target somebody for being mentally handicapped.
But that's why it's a hate crime. That's the irony of this whole thing, is that it is classified as a hate crime, but not a race
Yeah,
crime.
that is ridiculous. You know what? That one lady, I don't know what her name was. There was a correspondent. She was the black lady, and she was like, "We shouldn't be jumping to conclusions that things were hate."
Know the facts.
But if it was reversed, if the races were reversed, that's the first thing she would have said. She would have said, "This is a hate crime, and it needs to be treated like a hate crime."
Here's the difference between the left and the right, Davey. Is on the right, we would have readily called it a hate crime instantaneously. I guarantee you, if I when I heard that story, if I heard 4 white people kidnapped a black guy, a handicapped guy, and tortured him and said F, N words and F black people and I hate BLM and all this stuff, the first thought that would have gone through my head is that person is racist against black people.
No. You're jumping to the wrong conclusion. That person is anti-mentally handicapped.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You're jumping to the wrong conclusion.
Because I was saying, I hate retards. That's what I was
No. You were saying F black people. but what you really meant was F mentally handicapped people.
Yes. Drink this toilet water, you mentally handicapped.
Yeah. You need to say I love white people.
The very first thought that I would have in that scenario is that person is racist.
Yes, of course. Of course that's the first thing.
99.9% of Republicans and conservatives would also say the exact same thing. The only time that it gets construed is when it doesn't fit their narrative, and so they can't report on it honestly because it just they've created. I like how Gavin McInnes puts it. He says they create these little straw man arguments, like these little boxes that don't make any sense, and they go, "How is that? Can you explain your little box, this thing that doesn't make sense?" And we're like, "No, you made that up. That's your own." I can't explain your twisted world where you made that up. I can't explain that. I mean, it doesn't make sense, and that's most of their arguments on the left.
Yeah. They come up with this narrative, and then they just go with it. And then when something doesn't fit their narrative, they just try to make everything fit that narrative. They just want to change the details. They want to focus on this and focus on that so that it fits within their narrative.
Well,
but they're lying to you.
Yeah. Well, the context he was giving, Davey, is he was saying they make up these terms like homophobia, and then they create this box, this straw man of homophobia, and then they apply it to you, and they say, why are you scared of homosexuals? And then you go, you're the one who even claimed that I'm phobic.
I'm not scared of homosexuals.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a ridiculous box that you're handing me that it's like, what can I do with this? I'm scared of homosexuals. So I don't know. Your box just doesn't make sense. Get a new box.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's pretty funny. So have you seen all the stuff about what is it? Damn. Okay, let me find it. Oh yeah. So the ISIS. So can we shift gears?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I just came across this article. It's on PJ Media or something like that by Bridget Johnson. It says ISIS shows preschooler killing victim tied to carnival ball pit. So this is the religion of peace. This is the people that are the peaceful. The peaceful religion. That's what they claim.
The religion.
And they have video of there's an adult there, basically overseeing this. This kid's got to be 5 or 6 years old, probably 4 years old. Even.
He looks really young.
He takes a gun and he shoots this guy 5 times, and then he turns the camera and goes, "Allahu Akbar," or whatever, however they say it. I don't know.
Gross.
That is a 5-year-old, or a 4-year-old, a tiny child. Yeah, you see it on the article right there. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. This is the type of thing that ISIS is all about. You know what? You could say that Muslims are not like this, right? And
most of them are not.
I would agree. Yeah, most are not. But there is a significant portion of Muslim people that believe that this is fine, that this behavior is perfectly acceptable because their Quran teaches it. They believe that the Quran is the literal word of God. Where, like, in Christianity, the Bible is written by men, non-perfect people. Where I believe, at least this is my understanding, I believe that the Muslim that Islam believes that their Quran is the literal word of God, written by Muhammad, God's voice. And so the things that are in there,
that's essentially what Christians believe about the Bible.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that though, because how many Christians do you talk to that say, well, that's not supposed to be taken literally? I think that it's hard to say when it's the word of God that, oh, God didn't mean that literally, but he meant the rest of it literally. I mean, would you disagree with that? I just want to. Go ahead.
Are you saying that Christians believe that God's, the Bible isn't exactly what
Yes, I am saying. I don't think that. Well, no. What I'm saying is that Christians do not believe that the Bible is the word of God. They believe that it's the word of man. No. They believe that it's that men wrote the Bible. They believe that inspiration came from God. But I believe that the Quran is supposedly God said these words to Muhammad, and Muhammad wrote them down.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, some of the scriptures are going to be like that in the Bible, but most of it is probably, this is Mark's perspective, or this is Luke's perspective, or this is Abraham writing this down, or Moses, or whatever.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. So coming full circle. So I believe that most Muslim people believe that the Quran is the literal word of God. It's actually what God said, the words that God has said. And so I think there is a higher percentage of them that believe that jihadism is okay. It's not even just okay, just that jihadism is the right thing to do. They just went and polled a bunch of Muslim people, and there was something like 20 to 30% believe that jihad is perfectly cool, jihad against the West, and what that I mean, as evidenced by a little tiny child murdering a non-believer, and then turning to the camera and saying "Allahu Akbar," a 4-year-old. You don't see 4-year-old Christian people killing people that don't believe in Christ. Okay? So you can call it the religion of peace all you want, but until you show me that you're going to be peaceful, I'm not going to believe you. And so when I see Muslim people out on the street, it's really hard to be comfortable around them, because I'm like, what does that person believe? Does that person believe that I should die? Because if that person believes I should die, I don't think that person should be living in America.
No, definitely not. So,
and that's anti-American. At least some people would say that that's anti-American.
So,
but I think if you're anti-American, you need to not live in America. Yeah. You need to get out.
I agree. But, okay, so Davey, I was talking to our sister Sam yesterday.
Yeah.
And her argument was that you can't say that most of them are extreme, and it's only the extremists that are the problem. And there's an article that I linked in the thing. It's called Muslims and Islam. It's at the bottom of our links page.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go take a look.
And I was quoting to her some statistics that pretty much show that even the moderate Muslims still believe some really ridiculous stuff.
Extremist things.
There's a huge percentage of them that believe in Sharia law, and that Sharia law should be implemented in their government, in their respective government.
I saw somebody going out and interviewing Somalian refugees, and a huge percentage of them said that they believe that Sharia law is the right thing to do. And they live in America. They're refugees from Somalia living in America. And they believe that Sharia law is the right thing to do, even in America. So you could say until you're blue in the face that they're peaceful and that they don't want, they don't want to force their religion on Americans or whatever, on Westerners. But yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I think you had shared a video with me like several months ago where some lady in Congress said that, yeah, you're right, that the majority, the vast majority of Muslims are peaceful, and they don't want to go around and just kill people, right? They don't want to kill non-believers. But the problem is there are 1.3 billion Muslims in this world, and let's say that 20% of them are extremists. That's like more people than there are in the entire United States. There are more Muslims that are extremists in the world just because of the raw numbers. 1.3 billion times 20% is a higher, or by times whatever, 30% is a higher number than the 330 or so million people that are in the United States. So you can talk about how peaceful they are, but in that video that you sent me, the lady said something like, the peaceful majority is irrelevant when 300 million people believe this. And they're acting on it, and they're doing things that, actively, like mowing people over on the side of the road, that like tourists or wherever that was, where they take a truck and kill 15 people. They just drive it through a crowd. Why? What is the reason they're doing this? I don't think that the people that were mowed down by this truck really care that 80% of Muslims are peaceful. I don't think that it matters. You know what? It doesn't matter that 80% of them are peaceful if 20% of them are willing to kill a bunch of people. It's still a problem.
If you pull up that article, there's this little graphic right here called Support for Sharia, and it's percent of Muslims who favor making Sharia law. So here's her argument, is that, well, since there's only I get your counter argument that the peaceful majority are irrelevant, because the person, I'll link it in the video, but basically the person said, most Germans didn't want to kill the Jews, but the peaceful majority were irrelevant during the Holocaust. And the same thing happened in Russia and China and all sorts of different places and she just kind of showed that it only takes a few people to make a really, really bad thing happen. So
that's true. And so you could say that even if it was only 1%, you're still looking at hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah. So Davey, and something interesting is I told her that something like 49% of British Muslims believe that Sharia law should be implemented in their country.
Yeah, that sounds right.
She said, you sounds like you're making that up, and you can't even name. I forgot that it was Pew Research at the time, but Pew Research is the one who brought these sorts of statistics up. And
Pew's pretty good about being unbiased.
Yeah, and so it was interesting to see her reaction, because it seemed to break her narrative. Like, she basically said, I don't believe your statistic because of what I believe about Muslims. It was like, the facts don't line up with my reality or what I believe. Yeah. I don't think your facts are correct. So when I show her, or maybe she watches this video, and I show her the statistics on how really radical people are, I think it's pretty self-evident that it's a problem. So the idea here is, and Ben Shapiro did a bit on this, where he said he kind of conglomerated all these numbers and he took the percentages and applied them to numbers, and he found that hundreds of millions of people essentially believe that Sharia law should be implemented. And he didn't explain why that would make them radical. And the problem with Sharia law in general is that if you go outside without a burqa and you're a woman, it's punishable by death. If you're homosexual and you do a homosexual act in public, punishable by death.
That's insane.
So it's weird because they don't have like in between. It seems like most of their punishments are death, which is funny because we kind of feel like we reserve that for the worst people in our society.
Yeah, like we reserve that for the people that are doing the things that on behalf of the Islam religion. Those are the people that we need to be putting to death, are the people that are driving trucks through crowds of people.
So this graphic right here only has mostly like non-Western countries, so these numbers are really high. But I can't find the graphic. I don't know if they have the graphic on here for
About
the ones in Western countries. Because here we go. Nope, this isn't it. But it's really bad. Like I don't have the numbers up right here, but it's really bad. I think Ben Shapiro said it was 49% of British Muslims thought Sharia law should be implemented in the UK. That
sounds right.
Crazy. That basically, I'm not saying that 49% of them are willing to go and kill you for doing a homosexual act, but 49% of them believe that should happen to you, whether they're the ones that are going to, carry out the act or not.
Yeah.
Believe that it should happen to you. That is...
It's insane. That's insane.
And she says, it's just the extremists that are the problem. No, 49% of Muslims is not like some fringe extreme. If 49% of any massive group believes something that's really dangerous, that's a big, big problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's a huge problem.
And hence, when Donald Trump says we need to vet them better, that's like, they act like we just dropped a nuke on Iraq. Like, that's how people react when you say we should vet the refugees better. Oh my gosh, you just blew up the world. Like, you basically...
Well, I think one of the arguments is that it's very difficult to vet them because they could just lie. They're like, no, I've never been affiliated with
ISIS and not bring them in.
Yeah,
or
that's
unless
the
they
point.
can really be convincing. Like, basically, just raise the bar wherever the bar is now. Just raise it, or at least leave the bar where it is. Because the problem with Germany and all of their borderless countries over there, in Europe, is that
the EU.
The EU. They don't vet them at all. They just bring them in mass. And then they have to live with the consequences of Sweden being the literal rape capital of the world because of these people that they're shipping in. They have huge problems in Germany and a bunch of those countries over there because of these people who are not assimilating to their way of life.
Well, and then Angela Merkel turns around when these things happen and says, we can't jump to conclusions. We can't start blaming the refugees. This isn't because of the refugee crisis. Absolutely it is, Angela Merkel. You're lying to the public.
Well,
you know what? And this is why you're going to lose your next election.
She did, to her credit, say that she was wrong. That if she could go back, she would reverse the laws that she implemented to bring in these massive problems to their countries.
Yeah, you know why she said that? Because she's up for re-election and she knows she's going to lose.
Center. She wants to come to the center a little bit so she can win.
She's one of the only remaining globalists.
She has surprising support too.
I don't know. I think she's going to lose. Yeah. But that's mainly just because I think that most of Europe is kind of coming around and they're like, you know what, this isn't working anymore. This whole like open border policy across the board and this multiculturalism, it's just not working.
I think the British did a really amazing thing by, even if their secession doesn't actually happen, because they're trying to fight it and stuff.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't happen, it opened up a huge discussion for the rest of Europe to say, why would one of our own want to do that? It'd be like let's say we were getting raised by the same parents, and then you ran away from home. And I didn't even know that there was a reason. I was not aware of a bad situation here. And so what that does is it makes everyone else in the family take a close, hard look and be like, wait,
should we do this too?
Is this a family that I need to run away from? Basically, the smart, Britons basically opened up a huge discussion about
I think they really shook things up in Europe, and I think that like Italy just had a referendum that their like prime minister or whatever they call him, he stepped down because it lost. Because what it essentially was going to do is going to say, oh, we're going to get rid of one of our houses, like our as a republic, like like there's the Senate and the House or whatever. We're going to get rid of our Senate or whatever and pass that control back over to the EU. And Italy was like, no, that's not happening.
We're not giving the EU more power. Look at what the Brits just did.
Yeah, and then Le Pen from France, who's I think going to win the next election or whatever, or is like likely to win the next election, is like, you know what? We should start talking about Frexit, because I think that I think within 10 years the European Union is going to be gone. It's going to be gone.
I mean, the Brits had it right when they pretty much called it out, and they said it's corrupt. They're unelected officials that are creating laws that we have to follow, and they're laws that are extremely damaging to us. And it's all part of their globalist agenda to basically make it so that the whole world it's like an ideal. They have this ideal that they think that the world should just be this nice, happy place where all cultures get along and there's no borders and people just do what they want. And
I think that's a great idea.
No,
but the problem, if it actually worked out that way, it would be a great idea. It would be great to have open borders and nobody. But the problem is, you let people in that then go and drive trucks into groups of 40 people. That's what the problem is.
Not all cultures are created equal. So we have really good cultures that get corrupted by. So that's why, I mean, yes, ideally, yes, but I'm not going to live my life by an ideal. That's like saying I should never, get a traffic ticket. So, and then when I do, I just implode because my life isn't perfect because I got a ticket. You can't you can't pretend that your life is going to be some perfect ideal. It's not. You have to kind of deal with it. It's like, actually, a better example is when you're buying a house. A lot of people, when they're buying a house, they think that their house should be as extravagant as the one that they grew up in. But a lot of times, their parents worked quite a long time, and that wasn't their first house. That was like one of the final houses that they got to, and they finally were able to make it nice and good. And so when these people grow up, they expect to be buying that house, when in reality it's much more realistic to be for a slightly lower house so that they can build into that eventually.
Or like moving into an apartment first,
So the problem is that with their globalist thing, is that not all cultures are created equal. Our culture is legions better than most other cultures. And because of that, and because we have free speech, we have the Constitution, we have basically one of the most amazing governments that could exist, that does exist. I'm not saying it's perfect, but...
we definitely have our problems. But yes, you're right. It's the best government that exists in the world today.
And when other people come in here to this country, we basically import these people that come from SHIT holes, and then they try to vote in people that are going to implement the same problems that they have in their own country.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the problem is.
Why are you coming here?
Why do you come here to have a better life and then try to change our culture to be the culture that you just escaped?
Yes, your crap hole that you came from. We don't want your crap hole. If you want to live in a crap hole, go back to where you came from. It's obviously a worse culture because you're here. You wouldn't be here if our economy, our government, our culture, if all of that wasn't better, why would you be here? Well, exactly. The fact that you're here proves that you also believe that our culture is way better. Yeah. So don't come and change our culture to be more like yours. You need to assimilate to us. We have a way better culture than you. And I'm not afraid to say that because it's not racist. That's just a culture. If you have a bad culture, I'm going to call you out.
Well, my wife's stepdad, he was a Marine in the Vietnam War, and one of his friends said something like, if you saw what life was like outside of the United States in these countries that we're fighting in, you would be horrified at just the lack of respect for life. Like something as simple as just the respect for life. Like you would be surprised at how little they care about people being murdered and children being, being killed and being raped and things like that. Like it's horrifying. The rest of the world, there's a reason that people want to come to America and live in America. There's a reason that Muslims want to come to America and live in America. They want a better life, but you can't then come to America and then try to change our culture. You're coming to America for our culture. You can't come to America and then change our culture to make it like it is in the Middle East, where they don't even value human life. No. You can't do that. Don't come to our country and do that. If you're going to do that, get the F out.
Just stay. Don't even come. Just stay. You already have the really crappy culture that you can be a part of. Why do you need to bring that culture to us? We don't.
You don't. And Obama has upped the amount of Syrian refugees that they've been bringing in. I think he doubled or tripled the number of, I don't know the exact number, but I read something a while ago where Obama has upped the ante on the amount of Syrian refugees that he's letting in. What is the reason that he's doing it? I don't understand it.
Facepalm.
Is he just trying to
it's a
start a war? Does he want us to go to war with Islam? Is that what the purpose is? I don't know why he thinks it's a good idea to let people in like that without vetting them first.
I mean, he wants to save people from a war-torn zone.
Okay.
Their really bad culture. And the result is that he's going to incrementally, good thing he's coming out of office, but that sort of policy incrementally pushes a good. It's like when you have when you were a teenager, when you hang out with good friends, you generally are good, you act good.
Yeah.
If you hang out with the wrong crowd, they don't get elevated usually to you. The peer pressure is always down. It's not up. Yeah. It's not hey, let's hang out. Oh, let's read some Bible verses. No, that's smoking weed. What are you gonna? If you have a Christian and a pothead, and they become friends, what do you think?
What if you have a Christian pothead?
Well, I'm just saying. What are the chances that that they're going to be going to church that Sunday versus they're going to be arrested for narcotics?
Yeah.
Much higher. I mean, obviously, there's exceptions, and I'm not saying that all Muslims are a problem. I think Islam is a problem, and Islam teaches a doctrine and a culture that's really, 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 really bad. It's really oppressive to women. It's really oppressive to these people
that
the liberals claim to protect. And I think that, if you can really find the moderate ones that really don't, essentially, in my opinion, you would basically have to just denounce. Oh, I think it was Crowder. He said the vetting process should be you have to draw Muhammad before you come in here. Because by their own religion, it's sacrilegious, and they won't draw Muhammad. If you're not willing to draw Muhammad,
they had to. South Park wouldn't even put it on their show, and South Park is about the most anti-government, anti-Muslim people that you could ever meet.
They're the most politically incorrect, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a great idea. If you're willing to draw Muhammad, then I'll let you stay. Because that's a great way of showing that you really don't care about your religion, because that's one of the punishable by death crimes.
Greg, here's the problem though.
Here's a piece of paper. I have a general idea what Muhammad should look like. Can you please draw a satirical thing of him? Or not even satirical. I think they're just not allowed to draw Muhammad at all.
So yeah, they can't write a circle and then put 2 dots and a smiley face and point at it and say Muhammad because they would be put to death for doing that.
Yes,
under Sharia law, they would be put to death.
So that's all you need to do to vet them. I don't know why these politicians are going through all these. It's impossible to vet them. No, just have them draw. If they're not willing to draw Muhammad, then send them back the direction they came. Oh, you came from that way? Goodbye.
But I would think that most Muslims, even the ones who are more moderate, or even the ones that are way more liberal, I don't think that they would draw Muhammad because they do believe that it's wrong to do.
Then don't come in here.
But isn't that against the freedom of religion? Because their religion believes that you shouldn't force somebody to do that.
You're free to practice your religion in your own country.
Well, the First Amendment gives you the right to practice your religion here as well.
Not if you're not a citizen. I'm saying you're not a citizen yet.
I guess that's true.
Trying to get in here, we want people who are willing to draw Muhammad.
On the other side, though, Greg, like if you look at the book of Leviticus in the Bible, it does say that you should put homosexuals to death. Like those words are said in the Bible, so you can't really say that like Christians don't also believe, because if you take the Bible literally, you literally think that, and I've heard people say this, like homosexuality is a sin. One could argue on either side of that. I think that you probably believe that it is. I don't necessarily care either way. I don't think that it affects anybody. I think it's a personal choice, but the Bible does say to kill homosexuals. Like the penalty for being homosexual is for death. Does it say to kill them,
or it says that some were killed for being homosexual?
If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them shall have committed an abomination, and they shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. That's also
under the law of Moses, which if you understand they also did sheep. They would sacrifice the firstling of their flock. They had some kind of primitive rules, like you weren't allowed to walk a certain number of steps on Sunday or on the Sabbath, which was the seventh day technically. And then Jesus came and pretty much abolished the law of Moses, broke all of the rules, and said, we're not following that law anymore. So in the Bible, the crazy weird stuff is superseded by good doctrine of turning the other cheek rather than an arm for an arm.
That stuff kind of starts in the New Testament, starting with Matthew or whatever.
Whereas in the Quran, it's actually the exact opposite. He starts out peaceful, and the later things get more and more violent and worse, and those things do supersede the previous passages. So I mean, you could make that argument, but I would disagree because basically Jesus.
Yeah. I think you have to look to Muhammad to see what Islam's all about, and you need to look to Christ to see what Christianity is all about. Christ is a good person.
Raped, married as 6-year-old, had relations with, raped people, and
and felt justified in doing it.
Yeah, and I like what Sam Harris said. Sam Harris said that the problem with Osama bin Laden is that it's impossible to say that what he's doing is outside his religion. If Christian people went and blew up a building, let's say that Christian people were responsible for 9/11.
Yeah.
It's very clear that they were acting outside what their religion teaches.
Yeah, because the religion actually teaches peace.
Whereas it's impossible to discount Osama bin Laden based on his religion. His religion could not shun him for what he did, whereas a Christian would be shunned for doing so.
Yeah. So, Greg, I actually went to church with my family today, to a Christian church today, and I am not a religious person. I don't even really believe in the historical aspects of the Bible, but the things that the church teaches, in their sermons and things like that, I'm good with it. Like they can talk about Christ and talk about how he lived and all this stuff, but I don't think that it necessarily I think that if I said that to the pastor, I don't really believe all the ins and outs that they actually happened, that Noah's Ark happened, that I don't even necessarily believe that Jesus lived. I don't really know. I'm 50-50 on whether Jesus actually even existed, but I'm not going to go to a Muslim church, to go hear their message, because that's not a message I want to hear. They're very fundamental. Yeah, like you better believe this, and this is how it is. Where I think Christians, like this Christian church that I go to, they all believe it. Those people believe it. I don't necessarily believe in all like the little tiny things, but I believe that if you're trying to be a good person and you want to live like Christ, and you treat the Bible like it was, like more like stories to teach a lesson, that's kind of how I approach religion. Where I'm not a religious person. I'm about the most anti-religious person that you could possibly, have. But we started going to this church, and I've really enjoyed it. But that's because they teach peace. They teach you to be good. They teach you to be a good family man. They teach you not to commit adultery and things like that. Where I think that they do teach some of those good things in Islam, in a mosque, but I think that they just fundamentally are more hardcore about their belief system. Where I could go tell my pastor those things that I just told you, and he would be perfectly fine with me continuing to attend church. Where a Muslim person will be like, yeah, the penalty for your beliefs is death.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. So
you should come check out my mosque sometime. Anyway, hey, can I talk about Trump real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so I know this is a pretty intense conversation about Islam, but let's move on. Okay, so the very first day that the new Republican Congress was in, right? So they all got sworn in, they had their little photo ops, they all took their oath, and then the very first order of business that the Republicans decided to do was to eliminate the ethics committee, the independent ethics committee.
What is that?
So it's like it's a committee. It's an organization that looks at Congress and makes sure that holds them accountable for the things that they're doing. The very first order of business that the Republicans tried to do was to abolish that committee, or that whatever that organization is. Trump saw that, and then he went on Twitter and he was like, I think we have some more important things to worry about rather than the ethics committee or whatever. And they totally backed out of it. Which basically means Trump is going to control that Congress. That Congress was trying to see if they could get away with it, and no, they can't get away with it. Trump is going to turn around. This is why I love Trump, because he's just going to go straight to the American people. He's going to get people on his side, and then he's going to force Congress to do the right thing, essentially. I love the way that he's
coworker. I was talking to a coworker about him, and he goes, I don't like Trump because he tweets. That was
What? You don't like the honesty?
You don't like that he doesn't have to hold a press conference every time he wants to. If you want to hear what he is on his mind.
I can't wait. I can't wait for Obama to get out of office, man. On January 19th, I hope that Trump turns to Obama and goes, Obama, you're fired.
David, I mean, here was his argument, and we were talking about this for an hour at work. He goes, I just have a really big problem. I don't think the president-elect should be tweeting. And I said, do you have a problem with what he's tweeting, or do you have a problem with the fact that he is tweeting? And he said, it's the fact that he's tweeting. I really don't like that.
What?
And I said,
why do you care that he's tweeting?
First of all, why do you care that he's tweeting? And second of all, tell me one tweet that you had a problem with. And he goes, well, tweeting, I think he called someone a racist, or he called someone stupid. He called someone stupid. It was on Friday, I think.
Yeah.
I looked it up. I was like, Trump tweets, and it was the first one called someone stupid. And he said, I just don't think the president-elect should be, calling people stupid. And I'm like, get your story straight. Do you have a problem with him tweeting, or do you have a problem with him saying that people are stupid when they are? And
I think that person being stupid matters in that tweet. If the person is stupid and Trump calls him stupid, I think that's perfectly fine.
So I disproved him by asking him this. I said, if the tweet read, "Happy holidays, wonderful new year. Can't wait. God bless everyone in the entire country. Would you have a problem with it? And he said, no. And I said, it's a tweet. You said you have a problem with tweets.
Yeah, your fundamental problem is with the tweet.
Yeah,
it's not with what he's saying, it's with the tweet itself.
You said it was because he was tweeting. Don't tell me other politicians aren't tweeting.
Yeah, there's a lot of politicians that are tweeting. You know what? Ex-President Vicente Fox from Mexico constantly gets into Twitter battles with Trump. He's like, we're not paying for the wall. And Trump's like, yes, you are. You may think that you're not going to, but you're going to. I don't care what you say. Because he's going to, tax remittances or something like that. I think something like $25 billion goes from the U.S. in U.S. dollar to Mexico. If you just put a small percentage tax on that, in order to send remittances to Mexico, you paid for the wall already. You can talk about not paying for the wall, but you're going to pay for it one way or another. You may not do it willingly, but you're going to do it. All right. So let's wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you later, dude.
See ya.